Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. We continue our journey of discussing the basics of malware. In this video, we will discuss DLL injection. DLL injection is an important technique to understand as it is one of the basic forms of code injection. Most antivirus and EDR products out there use DLL injection to perform API hooking. In this video, we will look at this technique hands on. We will discuss the code and we will see how it can be seen in the debugger as well. With that, let's get started. So here I'm in my virtual machine. I have the sample DLL project open in front of me. This is the same sample DLL that we created together in one of the previous videos. I talked about the fact that usually the DLL main function is empty. It only has these case checks and there are basically break statements inside all of them. The main functionality inside a DLL is implemented inside one of the exports. We also talked about how a DLL can be executed by using some sort of a container. If I go to the release folder, I can show this to you again. Release folder, open in terminal, and we can say that run DLL32. This is going to be sample DLL and the name of the export. If I press enter here, it is going to write here process ID 3684, process name is this, and this message box is coming from inside the DLL that we had written. Now, in this case, in this specific video, we are looking at DLL injection. Now, whenever a DLL is injected into another process, there is no way for us to specify what export needs to be executed, which is why one of the ways the code is executed when a DLL is injected into another process is by adding the export function or whatever function you want to call from the injected DLL as a function call from DLL process attach. So I'll save this and I'm going to build this again, rebuild. All right. And now I'm going to go to the same release folder, pick up this DLL, and we are now going to go to our DLL injection solution. So I'm going to paste this DLL here, replace the file. We have this here. Now let me close this and let us go review our code for DLL injection. So the first thing that it is going to do is it is going to look for the notepad.exe process and it is going to get the PID of the process. Now, once it has gotten the PID of the process, it is going to call inject DLL on that PID and hence we will get the injected DLL executing in the notepad process. So let me show this to you before we go through this code. So open up notepad.exe, press play over here, and we can see that in the background, the DLL noded notification or message box has shown up. The process ID is 8232. The process name is notepad.exe. And we saw that this is a message box that is executed from our DLL. Okay, we can see that this notepad process is executing. And if we go to System Informer, let's go to System Informer, look for notepad.exe. We see that this notepad.exe process is 8232, and we can see that this process ID is again 8232. So let me press OK here, close this. Press any key to exit here and I will close notepad as well. Now let us go through the code. Let us first go through this function get process ID by name, go to definition. And this is the same code that we had discussed earlier in the video related to evasion. Here we are using create tool help 32 snapshot to get the snapshot of all the processes loaded on the system. Then we are using process 32 first and process 32 next to go over the processes that are executing on the system. And here we are using strcmp to compare the sz.exe file name with the process name that we want to find. Once there is a match, it prints to the screen found process with bit this, and it also prints the exe file name and the process id. Okay, once it has found this, it is going to return this process id. And once the process id is returned, it is going to be set up in this bit function. Let us now look at this inject dll function. So go to definition. All right, so here we have the name of our DLL, which is sample dll.dll. After that, we are going to get the full path of the DLL. Once we get the full path of the DLL, we are going to open a handle to our target process. In this case, the target process is notepad.exe. Once we have opened a handle to our target process, we are going to allocate some memory in the target process. And the size of the memory is going to be the length of the DLL path plus 1. Once we have allocated memory in our target process, we are going to write process memory, which means that we are going to write the path of the DLL that we want to inject into that location. From there, we are going to create a remote thread. In the remote thread, we are going to find out the path of the load library A function. In fact, the address of the load library A function in the target process. And from there, we are going to pass it the parameter of the DLL path. Once we have passed it the address of the DLL path, this is the same thing that was allocated here. It is going to execute load library A on our DLL. And once it does that, it is going to execute the start function in the target process. All right. And after this has completed executing, we are going to execute a virtual free X, which is going to free the allocated memory inside the target process. So let us see this in action. Let me open up notepad.exe here. Okay. And let me minimize this. Let us look at how we can debug this to understand how it all works. Open up the debugger, file, attach. I'm going to attach this to notepad.exe. And from here, I'm going to put a breakpoint on this sample dll.dll and let us start debugging. We are going to see how we can understand what is going on. All right, so let's start the debugger. We have gotten the DLL path. Let me move this a little bit here so we can see it. The DLL path is inject DLL sample dll.dll. Okay. Next up, we have opened the handle to the process and the handle is A0. Next up, we are going to allocate some memory in the target process, and the memory in the target process is this DLL path. So we can copy this, copy value, and I want to open up another notepad and put it in there. Okay, so this is copy, and let's see if I get the full address here. Okay, the address is this, where the path is allocated, or the address is allocated. Of course, the memory is allocated. Okay, let's go forward. The DLL path memory location is this. Okay, and let us now go to Control G, Control V. Let me open up this and see what is the path. Okay, so this is the DLL path memory location. I don't know what I was copying there. I was copying the wrong one. I was copying the DLL path and I need to copy the PDLL path, which is this one. Okay. So copy this, Control G, Control V over here. And we have this here. We can also put this in the dump. Okay. So we have put this in the dump. Now, after the write process memory is executed, we should see the DLL path pop up here. Okay, we can see that the DLL path has been populated over here. And if we continue our execution now, we see that this message box has come up. Okay, this message box has come up. And if we go to our memory map, or in fact, we can go to the log as well. In the log, we can see that load library A was called inside the notepad process, and this was the path of the DLL. If we can go inside our memory map as well, and we should see somewhere the path of our DLL. Let's hope we can find it somewhere. Okay, we have this here, sample DLL.dll. So that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you very much for your time.